Hello, everyone. This is Shelly Dressel, and tonight I'm channeling the universal light beings. This is one of my every 2 week channeling sessions that I offer. So, Happy New Year. Shoot, I thought to myself I should go buy one of those little hats or something that says Happy New Year, but I didn't have one, and I never even left the house today. So it was a very nice New Year's Day. Anyway, welcome to 2025. I just feel like it's going to be a great year. Um, I, you know, it's so funny because I thought 2024 was going to be a great year, and it was in many ways. It was a super great year, but there were so many unexpected things that came up that that's why I'm like, okay, I think 2025 is going to be a great year. What unexpected things are going to come up? Who knows? I think that's part of living is that things come up. We never know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. So I think that's just part of life. I was writing about that a little bit. I sent out the email this morning, and I had written a blog just about the new year. It's so funny. It started off totally different, and then it ended up with my experience because I really felt these energies coming in were so intense, and most of the time I just said, okay, that's fine. Okay, I'm just sleeping. No big deal. But these, like, I went for about a week or 10 days there, something like that, not sleeping. I mean, literally getting 3 and 4 hours of sleep at night. Then I'd get an 8 or 9 hour night, and then that would, tide me over. But anyway, so it just really, forgot to put earrings on. But anyway, it just was really strange. So that blog that I wrote ended up a little bit different than what I first originally intended. But then I had the sense that if I'm experiencing this, you guys probably are too. And I put a little picture in there that I took of the cardinal that was talking to me. And it just shifted everything. So I think a big takeaway from that is that you have to be willing to shift or make a change. And even though you might not consciously say, "Oh, I'm not willing to make a change." Unconsciously, you may be saying that. So anyway, it was a pretty good blog. Go back and read it if you haven't. And then please share your thoughts with me. Love to hear what you say. So we're here, 2025. This is a 9-year in numerology. And one of the things that I remember hearing for the last several months is about these astrological, believe me, I am not an astrologer, but I have heard so much about these astrological alignments, and some that haven't been here in hundreds of years, some that cycle every so often, but also about the intensity of them. And I do know, just from my own perception, is that the end of 2024 with the solstice that we just had, that was all about really clearing out the past, clearing it out through multiple lifetimes, clearing it out through this lifetime, clearing out lineage, clearing out clear everything that may still be hanging over you. And I think that's what it's been doing. I think that's also another reason why so many people have just felt so wonky. So that was one thing that I wanted to mention. And I'd just like to talk for a few minutes here. I'll give it another minute or so, and then we'll jump in there. But anyway, Sevilla, Lilith, Karen, good to see you all. Denisa, Golden Soul. Sometimes, Karen from Idaho. Yep. Easier to understand than the Golden Soul. But I love the Golden Soul. What a cool name. Denalia, and then Rosalie. Good to see all of you guys here. It's wonderful. Totally feel you about the energies. They've been really tough. Glad you came on tonight. Good. I'm glad too. So anyway, where was I going? When I tap into or just go inside or just get quiet, that stillness is back. That's one thing that I've always had. Not always, but when I'm, it's something that I frequently have inside. And then when it feels wonky, like I'm in that stillness, but there's something niggling out here, it just makes it really, really hard. So I love to be back into that space of balance, back into that place of being centered. And it's just a much better place to be, no doubt about it. So let's see. I have been talking to the ULBs a little bit today, and I don't know which one of them is going to say it, but I'm curious. I think one of the things that's been going through my mind, it's been pretty well documented that the moon landing never took place. And so I've been thinking, well, where did they go with all those shuttle flights? And where did they, I mean, can you imagine such a massive thing? So I kind of hope that Albayon may talk about that, because I feel as if that's part of what's going to be new coming in. Hello, Monica from Sweden. Great. Someone else was, Denmark, I think it was. I love that we get people from all over the world. It's fabulous. But anyway, I'm curious to see if that's something that he might talk about, or if that's just something that's going to come out more and more during this year, because I just keep hearing over and over, most of what we know to be true is either fragmented of the truth, a fragment of the truth, or distorted or completely untrue. So that's going to be very exciting, I think, as we go through that. Calgary, hi Nathan, good to see you. Okay, so anyway, it's so funny. I was talking to Alexander for a minute, and then I just centered myself, and I came in here, and now it's like as soon as I start talking to people, I'm looking at lots of different things. I'm doing lots of different things, and anyway, hi from Stockholm. Good to see you, Ava. So anyway, okay. I think I am just going to jump into this because I'm getting so scattered here, trying to read things and trying to talk and trying to be present. And so I'm just going to jump in and see. But anyway. Greetings. It is I, Albayon, and I come to you this evening to celebrate this new year, to celebrate what you consider a new beginning. And let's talk for just a moment about the way the collective consciousness can have so much of an impact on things. First of all, because you have an entire world that is focusing on December 31st is the end of the year. January 1st is the beginning of a new year. It actually creates an energy. It actually creates a conscious awareness that goes along with that. So when you have so much, and even though there's the Chinese New Year that is at a different time, and there are other people, pagans, that follow a different calendar. There are people that follow different calendars. This is the one that is considered the number one worldwide. So it creates its own consciousness, and it creates a vibration or a frequency of awareness that is centered around the end of something, the beginning of something. And it's important for you to remember that. Remember that that whenever there is a closure or a completion, or even if you get stagnant in the middle of something, that's not the ending, that's not over with. It is simply a transition into something else. So sometimes if you're stuck, or sometimes when something does come to an end and you just are thinking in your mind, oh, I'm so sorry about that, or what a mess, or I want it to go on, whatever your thoughts may be, it's important for you to understand that no, we're just going to shift it a little bit, or we're going to do something different, or we're going to bring in something more. And more so than ever, ever, ever before, the universe is here to support you in ways that bring about a greater ease in your life, or greater joy in your life, or greater abundance in your life, because that is the way the majority of the universe is. And so the lack that your planet has had, or the frequency that your planet has been in for so very long, is not in accord with the rest of the universe. Okay, so let me just kind of segue a little bit about that. The entire universe has been not consumed, but has had a deep integration of the nefarious ones, as we call them. And we're not talking about the peons, the people. We're talking about the reptilians. We're talking about the people above the reptilians, and we're talking about that universal energy that has attacked planets, that has literally eaten some planets whole, that that was the intention of what they wanted to do with Earth. And so when that was trying to transition the entire universe into that negativity, it was a big war, like what you see in the Star Wars, what you see in Star Trek. All of those were what we call the Orion Wars, and they were very real. That was not fake. That was a documentary, you could say. Did they just take place 30, 50 years ago? No, they took place thousands of years ago. But the time-space reality of how you look at things is transitioning, so you will have a greater depth or a greater awareness of what this is. So this was something trying to take over this entire universe, planet by planet by planet, or galaxy by galaxy. And thank goodness it did not happen. And what was going on Earth was going on several other planets. This saving the planet, or saving that area, so as to allow it to transition into what it was always intended to be. So that's why I say it's almost as if we have come full circle. When you go back hundreds of thousands of years, this planet was beautiful. Things were actually highly, highly evolved. And it was a place where people would come as like a vacation type thing. It was a place to come and expand their what do you call it, creativity? What do you call those things? Like a retreat, where you could go and you could practice gifts that you have, or you could practice them in a different type of environment. And this planet was just filled with, with the water, the trees, the forest, the mountains. And so it was a place that was very nurturing. And at the core of all of that is Gaia. So when you consider then how things shifted and how they just fell so very deeply, and now it is because of humanity. And yes, obviously, we are also working from the universe, but we could not do this without all of you on the earth plane doing what you've been doing. So that's why I say everything is coming back full circle. Is the planet at that place where it was originally? No. But that's what it's moving towards. And it is moving towards a place that is filled with creativity, a place that is filled with abundance, a place that is filled with love, laughter, joy, a place that is just magical. And when you talk about like the fairies, the devas, the elves, all of these different species that were a part of the earth plane, and that have, many of them have gone inside the earth. We could even put into that the dragons and other mystical beings. So as they are going to be returning to the planet, or coming up from inside of the planet, that is also going to add to the mysticism of what will happen. Perhaps Brysentia will speak a little bit more about that. But I wanted to say this at the very beginning, because you truly, truly stand here where you can literally remember what it was like to have that third dimension, to have all that horrific negativity, to have all that pain and sorrow and suffering. You remember it. Maybe it was deeply impacted within you, the person you are. Maybe it was the people that you knew. However, you literally stand here on this precipice where you can see and know and remember what that was like. And then you are transitioning into something that is 180-degree difference. It's completely different than what that is. And it's more about what you are creating. So as I bring this up and as I'm talking about it, I can actually feel certain of you, like, feel these awakening senses and these awakening memories from when you lived on the planet back in that day. And so as you are moving forward, understand that it's not here right now, and you're not going to even get to that place in the next, say, 50 to 100 years. But that's what you are working towards. And every single year between now and when it arrives fully, you are going to be living your life in a new and different way. You're going to be living with a much greater consciousness. You're going to begin to, the time will come when it will fade away from your consciousness, the pain, the sorrow, the suffering. Okay, I just heard someone say, yeah, what is that, 50 years? For some of you, it may be, but no, we're talking, some of you are already forgetting. Some of you that are living much more fully in the higher frequency have to stop and say, wait a second, don't you remember? It was really bad. And then you say, oh yeah, it certainly was. So no, this is something that literally within 5 to 10 years is going to be significantly transitioned or transformed into something that is going to be about what it is to be in this place of love and this place of balance and this place of awareness, because that's intrinsic within the earth, and that is what is intrinsic within your soul essence. Okay, so now let's talk about another thing just for a moment. Okay, yeah, it's like, phew, there's so many downloads because there's so much that we want to talk about. But we did want to just kind of set the intention for the beginning of this year. So another thing that I wanted to mention to you is that it'll come out like mid-year or something like that. You'll begin to hear more about the way in which the universe is put together. When you look up into the sky and you see the stars, there's some people that say, oh no, that's just a projection on the dome that's around the earth. No, that's not true. You actually are looking out into your galaxy. You actually are looking out with some of these very strong microscopes, and you are seeing other planets, and you are seeing the ways in which these planets line up to you. When you think about like those people that would go on those ships, what did they call them? I forget what they called them, but Shelly was just saying she was a little bit curious about that. You know, what was going on with all those shuttles, as they called them, that would go up to some place in the universe and then come back down. Some of them were actually leaving the environment of your planet. Some of them would land on another planet, and yet others of them were just going to a place of consciousness or a place of stasis or a place of creation and then coming back down. I just heard a question that someone said, was the space station a real thing? And the answer to that is yes, it was legitimate. It was a physical structure that was orbiting, just as you have the satellites that orbit around your planet, the space station orbited around your planet. So some of these shuttles that would go in and out would land on that space station, and some would land on the moon, and some would land on these different planets. However, if you're going to truly go from place to place to place, the only way to go is through the portals and through the various dimensions in time, space, reality, because otherwise it's just too long to get there. And people, and it's not needed, you know, because these portals are there. That's what they're there for. And so when I'm coming in and out, or those on the mothership are coming in for something that they need to do on the earth plane and then going back onto the mothership, they're going through these portals. So this is something more that you will hear about in the coming year. And I feel as if most of you are already familiar with them. And the question that I'm now hearing about that is, well, can I go experience one? Where are they located? The portals are in various parts of the planet. They're actually quite numerous. There are some portals that are somewhat small, you might say, that just go to a short distance. Those that would take you to the other end of the universe or into something way out in your universe those are much larger, and those are only in specific places around the planet. It doesn't do you a lot of good to go look for that, because they're still protected and they're still not available to the average person, because we don't want someone getting stuck in there or getting pulled in, not knowing where they are, getting stuck in limbo, not able to come back. So these are not going to be available just for the average person to go wandering over and say, oh, let me go see where I can go. However, as people start to talk more and more about it, I wanted to just plant these seeds with you today so that you could say, oh yeah, we heard about that and I'd like to hear more. Okay, so then another thing that I wanted to talk about, shoot, it just went out of my consciousness as soon as I started to say it. Um, so I frequently am the one to talk about a lot of the politics and the things that are going on your planet. So let me tap into that before we jump over to your questions. Um, Everything is exactly as it needs to be. You know that I was right there with all of you, waiting for that Jasar to be activated. It has been activated on paper. It has not been activated as in distributed to people. I feel as if something was signed or something was done sometime during the month of December, around the 15th to 20th, but it's on hold for something. But the agreement was made that this is going to come out. Another big thing that is going to come out in the not so distant future is about the Vatican. It's going to come out about the satanic worship. It's going to come out about, that's one of the first illusions that's going to be shattered, so to speak. They're going to talk about all of these many things that have been stored beneath the Vatican, including all the gold that was paid to the Vatican over the years. And that's already been returned to the countries and to the people that it was stolen from. A lot of the artifacts that were paintings like from World War II were taken to the Vatican and were taken to some of these places, and those have been returned to who they belong to. But what I'm talking about here are the big deal global things. There have been, through time, space, reality, there have been many instances when there were open communication between those of us from the universe and those of you on the earth plane. And they have that all documented. It's documented in scrolls. It's documented in pictures. It's documented in many different things. But that was part of what they took and hid away from people, because they wanted to take down that perspective that that the universe is filled with life, and that life is intercommunication. Like if you say, okay, I live in the United States and I'm going to travel to Europe and go visit people, it was as easy as that. Well, I'm going to travel out to the universe and visit people and come back. The travel is just as easy to come out here as it was to for you to go someplace else on your planet. And that's a part of what is going to come out. So one of the first things to come down will be the Vatican. So there are already people in place, because as with everything, there's a lot of really horrific, bad people that may have been in charge, but there were those underneath them that were like, no, I don't go along with this. But they may have stayed as a means of trying to keep something, what's the word we want to use? Keep some balance, or not only stay aware of what was going on, but to keep a balance. So my sense is, as I look at this, is that the church itself is going to change. There will not be another pope, but they've already been working on that. All of these major changes that are coming about have already been created. They already are in place. They're just waiting for the right time to bring it about. And many of you that are listening to this on this day may not be that religious or follow a particular religion. However, this is one of the biggest religions in the world, and we do not want to create instability for people. So a lot of what's been done in the past, those traditions will continue. However, they will be adjusted as people explain, well, this is what's really happened, and here's how we're going to transition it. So this I see happening in probably, there's a potential that it might come out like mid-January, but for some reason, it's funny how I'm looking at it. It's like I see it almost immediately by mid-January, and then it jumps to like March, April. So I'm not sure what would happen. If it doesn't happen immediately, then that must just mean that they have a lot more stuff that they need to complete in order for that to take place. And so then it jumps to about March or April. All right, let's look at the United States. So everything is being set up to move forward. And January 6th, which, 4 years ago, that was a big deal, big problems. And that was when they actually took out a lot of the nefarious ones that had stolen the election. And I see that as going fine. I see it as going very, very well. And I see something around the 6th. Many of you will recall how Trump went to Davos. Was it Davos? The place in Switzerland, and passed out his files and said, I've got all of it on all of you. I know everything. And of course, then they were scrambling and trying to, it's ever since then that they've tried so hard to pull him down and get him out of there. So we have a sense that when Congress or the Senate or whatever they call those departments, when they come back, that something similar happens. I've got all of this on all of you. I know everything. And you can quit right now. And many of these are going to be arrested, and they are not, but some of them are going to make deals. So our sense is that before January 20th, which is when the inauguration is, all of this is going to be dealt with, and all of this will be adjusted. The Nasara Jasara, it's there, it's ready to go. It honestly, at this time, as I look at it, I see nothing about when a date is. So I can only imagine that they're trying to get these other things situated before they come out with that. So at the earliest, probably then the end of January, if not into February. Okay. Another thing that I'm seeing as I'm looking at things that are going on around the world. A lot of people keep talking about the EBS, and I'm not 100% sure they will ever have the EBS that all of you want, where they 100% turn everything off and you can only see that, because my sense of it is that that's just people, they have decided that's just too harsh. That's just going to, those that are resistant to all of this information are just going to put up a huge wall, and they're going to ignore it even more. This is one of the reasons why you've seen dump after dump after dump after dump after dump of information, especially since the election in November. So my sense is that after this election, they may begin with the congressmen and the senators and say, hey, this is what's been going on. And we know that many of them, many of the people that live there have said, well, they need to have term limits, but no one's going to do that to themselves because they've got such a cushy life. Well, all of that is going to transition. The number of employees, federal government employees that have been just taking advantage of the system and not doing the work, they're going to be gone. Very short period of time, very short. Meaning within just a few months, 6 months at the very, very most. But many of them will be even sooner than that. Another thing to come up that many people there are concerned about is the IRS. And again, the IRS was taken down years and years ago, probably around 2021, something like that, maybe 2022 at the very most. And shoot, I always get the words confused. But anyway, the parts that the IRS was connected to, all of that fake banking system, everything that was connected to the elite banking and the fiat currency. The fiat currency has already been put away. Everything has been converted back to the gold-backed standard. And that is going to be told at the same time that they come up. They have to have something as a backup to be able to get the money to fund the government. But the biggest difference is you will no longer be sending billions and billions of dollars to other countries. You will no longer be funding wars because there will no longer be the large scale wars that have been a part of this planet for the last 150 to 200 years because that's just not compatible with this vibration. And the people that made all the money from that have been removed from their position, and they've taken out the banking system. I mean, some of you, when you stop to think about this, it was only in, what was it, 150, no, not even 150 years ago, in, what was it, around the Civil War in the United States, that they changed over and brought in all of those nefarious ones. And then they just changed the currency in, what was it, 2020, 1912, 1920, something like that, 1930s at the latest. And my point being is it's been barely 100 years that these have been in place, but because people don't really have a memory and they don't talk about anything different. They think that it's always been this way. So the country's able to survive. The country's able to prosper in other forms to support it. And that's what you're going back to. They're already talking about it. They've already set it up. And it feels like it could very well be one of the first things that he does, because Trump, once he's inaugurated, because he does want to do something big. He wants to make a big statement. And so it could be that that's when he takes down the IRS, and that's when he puts something in its place. It does feel like, okay, let's just do it this way. Will there be like a flat tax that's 5%? Potential. Will there be 10%? Potential. 15? Potential. 20? We get a no. So somewhere around that 15% space is what taxes are going to probably end up being. And it feels as if, and then some states, okay, will all the states continue to have state income tax? Some do not have income taxes now. The states are all going to stay as they are right now. There is a potential that they'll take away the state tax because many of the states in the United States don't have a state tax. And so it may be that they go to everyone changes that at some point, but that's not even this year, maybe not even next year. But that is a potential for out there in the future. So as I'm looking at these things, that I just cannot help but feel that personal money, money in people's personal accounts, and money and a relief of the amount of money that people are paying is just high on the priorities. And it feels as if that's all immediately after the election, or something that has to do with this is just my sense of it. So is it going to happen exactly like this? As we all know, maybe not. But it's such a strong energy. I feel like there will be some form of a relief financially that'll come immediately after the election, and then a permanent long-term transition very, very soon after that. Okay. All right. So there were a couple of other things as far as the government that people are asking. So the disclosure, my sense is that they will continue to have big things like this. They'll continue to put the dumps out there that have been going on and on for the last several years, but even more so. They will change out the people that do the mainstream media, so that some of those people, yes, they will physically be removed and others will come in. But they have already been breaking down that system that has put out like subtle subliminal mind control and has put out subliminal messages, and all the negativity that it's been about, and the propaganda. So that will all come down. And as soon as that comes down, then you will start see publicly and in the mainstream all of these changes and these things that have been happening. Okay. Most everyone understands and knows about the abuse of children. And I'm not saying understanding it as in they think it's okay, but most people have understood that there has been an abuse of children for many, many years. In fact, that's gone on for hundreds of years, but it's gotten particularly bad over the last 15 to 20. And so that is, that was a massive shift took place in 2020 during the pandemic, when everything was shut down. Many of these dumbs were cleared out. Many of the children were saved. And so that was a big change. I'd say 80% was cleared out at that time. And in the 4 years since then, another 15% at least has been also cleared out. So we're talking, 5% is still way too much, but we think it's down to like 1 to 2 to 3%. That is still a part of this trafficking. So the trafficking will come down very, very quickly. The fence, not the fence, the border, the border, what do you call that? That keeps people out. That's already been in the process of being reinstated. The gentleman that's taking care of that has already been working on it and putting things back up. So in other words, a lot of this stuff is going to happen very, very quickly. Or it will seem as if it's very, very quickly, but it's really not, because it's been worked on for the last 4 years and everything has been put in place. It's just that it'll come one thing, then the next, then the next, then the next. And so people will think, what the heck? But it's good. It's good. Okay, I think I've been rambling for a bit, and I know that I have said a lot of the things that you guys were asking me about, but I am open to receive the questions that you may have. And greetings to everyone here. Can you tell us more about the worldwide fog? Who is creating it and why? And what can we do to heal from it? Interesting. Yes, I have seen these images that people talk about that say, this fog doesn't look like a normal fog. This fog looks construed. So let me look into that and see. There is still weather manipulation that's going on. It's going on all over the world. And this one about the fog feels as if it has in the particles of it things that are working on people in terms of working on the consciousness of people. It's working on the physicality of people. And in some places, it feels like it's even filled with chemicals. Not every place does it feel like it's synthetic, but many, many places it does. Is this done by the nefarious ones? In part. There are some, okay, let me just, so when we're looking at this, we see some places of Europe, some places of North America, and then some places in Australia where it feels like they're trying to use negative things and trying to bring down like those chemtrails that they had as a means of putting out chemicals and things. There are places in these different locations that do have some chemicals in the fog, and it is done for nefarious reasons. But I remind you, there are not very many resources left, nor are there very many people available to go and do these things. So that's just getting less and less and less as a potential. As I look at other places, even though it doesn't look like your normal fog, it looks dense, or it doesn't look as transparent, or, it just doesn't look normal. It actually is created as a means of filtering some of the energy. So not all of this, we'll call it false fog, is for the negative. Some of it is out there as a means of clearing out people's energies. But we understand that because you have been accustomed to having the nefarious ones do things like what they tried to activate the 5G and what they've tried to do in all these other levels of things, I can understand that you're thinking, oh, this is done for nefarious reasons. But in looking at the planet, I can see spots where indeed it was for nefarious reasons, but I can see many other places where it was done as a means of filtering things out or clearing things out. So that's a double, it's not balanced, but some is good, some is bad. And our sense is that you will get back to that normal cycle. There's just so many chemicals on this planet that have been used and abused, in putting it into your ground, putting it into the atmosphere, putting it all over the place. And so all of that will transition. So here's a little interesting tidbit. We know so many of these people that say, save the environment, lower the CO2. Well, the CO2 is actually when they wanted to lower the CO2 because the reptilians couldn't tolerate it. That's one reason why they stayed inside the planet. And so they wanted to make it lower so that they could come topside more often. So what you're going to find is that when people quit monitoring that so much, and your trees and the lush vegetation and everything's doing what it's supposed to do, you need a little bit higher CO2, and your vegetation will thrive with that. So we see that part of this is also setting things up so that your vegetation can go back to what it needs to be, so that it can support all of you. All right, any other questions? Are the sim bods still a good investment? When will they pay off? Thank you. Are the sim bods still a good investment? We get neutral for them. So they're not bad, but we're not seeing a strong upswing in them at the moment. So they just feel neutral right now. So that would tell us that if you already have them, then just give it more time And then once a lot of these transitions and a lot of this information comes out, maybe at that point, then they will spike up. But are they a good thing to go out and buy right now? I get a no for that. So if you have them, just hold on to them, keep them, keep, just wait a little bit longer, because I do sense at some point they will go up. But it doesn't feel like it's immediate. It feels like once these other changes take place, like with the Nasara Jasara, then at that point is when you'll have a lot more that you can get from that. All right. Anything else? I am living in Denmark. The banks are forcing us to have MIT ID. If we don't comply, we have no access to our account and can't do anything via internet. Wow, I'm stunned. When will we be? Okay, a MIT ID. I wonder what the MIT stands for. Military, that MIT. Anyway, the MIT ID in Denmark, and without it, you don't have access. So let's look at the Danish government, and let's look at their banking system. This feels like it's all connected to the old system. And as we're looking at it, it feels as if it's, okay, let me look at it again. Whew. It feels like it's a temporary thing. It feels like some of the countries around the world, are still kind of entrained in that old protocol and in the old energy where it was part of the nefarious banking system. And that's what this feels like to me. And so it does not feel like it's going to go into effect. Although if you have to do it to keep access to your money, then we say go ahead and do it. But it feels like it's going to, it feels like it's there and then it just disappears. So my sense of it is that this is something that was put in place a long time ago, and that these people are just going on the same banking, like this was the protocol, this is what we were going to do. And this is our intention, to have more control of the people and more control of the money. But they had total control of the money. And so this feels as if, just as with the rest of the world, the banking system is going to transition into something that is back to the people, that is for the people, and is not going into just a few pockets. But this was 100% set up when they were in control. And so it feels like it's just a carryover from that. And it doesn't feel like it to me, as I'm looking at it, it seems like it just disappears. And so if it doesn't disappear and you have to do that to keep access, then just go along with it. However, here's what I would say to you. As you know, energy is everything. Intention is everything. So if you're like down to the very last day, and because none of us want you to lose your money. And our sense is that we just see this thing that wants to come in. And if you don't do it, if you're going to be a rebel, then we're going to punish you for it. And our sense is that they'll still know, you'll still get your money back. However, you would go through a period of time when it would really be a struggle. So we say, play the game, go along with them. Now, anytime that you do anything, like for those that had to get the vaccine because they had to keep their job, and we talked about, well, just push it out of your cells, just push it out of your energy, or bring your energy into one that it's neutral, it has no impact on you. So with this, if you have to go along with this, if you have to do this, then like as you're connecting to the computer, as you're connecting to the system, as you're connecting to what the information is that they want, then just send a sense of neutrality into it, that I'm doing what I need to do because I don't want to lose my money. However, I'm neutralizing any deep impact that this could have on me. And number one, that will pull out any hooks that you might feel as a result of having to go along with this. And then secondly, what that will do is that will just keep you above the vibration of the fear, the anger, the frustration that everybody else is going to have to go along with that. So your energy, your intention, your vibration, all of these things do have an impact. I sense that when I first read this and I first looked at you, it felt pretty big and pretty strong. And then I cleared it out and I said, let's look at it now. Let's look at it now with this transition that's been going on. And it was way, 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 way down here. So I think it is something that may be able to get its process started, but the banks that nefarious banking system and all of them, they've already been taken out and everything is being dismantled. So maybe it's just not 100% dismantled there. And, but it will be. And so anytime that you need to go along with something like that, then just shift your energy, do what you need to do, because I don't want you to lose any of your money or your investments. All right. Anybody else? Okay. Hang on a second here. Shelly just going through her drink very quickly. Give us a second. Lots of talking. Thank you, Albayon, or thank you. Can Albayon or one of the others please tell me the torrential rainfall and flash flooding that is happening in Queensland, Australia? Was it Queensland that had it a couple of years ago? They had a lot of flooding, if I'm remembering correctly. And will it end or ease off soon? Is it a geoengineered by our government or because of the solar flares and other reasons? As I'm tapping into this, my sense is that this is about clearing and purging. And I remember when I tapped into it before, it was about clearing and purging. So anywhere around the planet that has a lot of this flooding, it may be geoengineered by HARP or some of those other organizations. However, there frequently is, everything has been tuned down to such a degree that that it's not as bad as it could have been. And where there is flooding, where there is water, it's always about purging. So there must be something in that area that is clearing out the land. And we remember 2 years ago, I think it was, they were clearing out dams because it was flooding dams and they were having to get rid of the dams. But this time it feels like it's about purging the land and clearing out the land and clearing out things like that. So it is, it's not 100%. It's something that the earth, just Gaia, just created for itself. It said, hey, I need to clear out here. But it also feels as if it's, it was enhanced to a degree by the geoengineering, as you call it. That's a good name for it. But it does feel like it's very interesting because as we're talking about this, like we saw drones or something going out there that were dropping chemicals or dropping something into these areas. And then we saw people coming behind them and taking the drones, taking the people, taking these things down and just saying, nope, no can do. So in other words, what was done nefariously has been removed, and it was not that much to begin with. It was auto enhanced because there was a cleansing that needed to take place there. and all of it is going to, so yes, it doesn't feel like it's going to go on too much longer, but there's been flooding in all of the parts of the world, the planet, because they need to cleanse the earth. They need to cleanse the soil. They need to cleanse, sometimes it's the people, the people need to go through something in that area. Who knows? But it just feels as if it's about a cleansing that's going on. Okay. Anything else? I guess that will do it then. Well, I thank you for this opportunity, and this is going to be a fabulous year. There are going to be so many insights that come out. There is such a relief to the vast majority of people as I'm looking at people, as I'm looking at what happens, as I'm looking at the information. The end result, as I'm looking at people, is that the majority feels such a relief, as if Finally, I've been waiting for this, and I'm ready for relief, and I'm ready to move on. So excellent, excellent. Thank you for this opportunity. Ansaluia. Greetings. It is I, Brysentia, and I come to you at this time also celebrating as you stand here between these two calendar years. There was talk in another one of our channels about going back to the 13-month calendar. And I wanted to mention that it would start in, I believe it's March, what you call March, and everything would be shifted. So there's a lot more energy that is gathering around that. And it feels as if it's something that might come up, but it would not, it's one of those things that if they go back to it, they would like go in segments, so that they don't suddenly say, oh, the first isn't the first, now it's this, that would just be way too much. So it's something that would be put out there, would be made in adjustments, and would be made in increments. But you've had your traditions for so very long, and people like their traditions and they're accustomed to that. So I do sense, though, by maybe 20 years down the road, something like that, there's that potential that you will be back to the old calendar that goes more along with the seasons. And it actually, I mean, you're not going to have more time. It's, I mean, that time space reality remains the same. It's just divvied up differently. And so that anyway, I just wanted to say at the beginning here, because I know that so many of you are beginning to talk about this and ask, is that going to happen? And the answer is yes, but it will be 10 years, maybe to 15 years. Okay, another thing that I wanted to talk about is the Earth. The Earth, such a beautiful place. You are very well aware that I was here during Lemuria, and Lemuria was a very expansive time on Earth. It was a very glorious time, but there were actually times even before that, hundreds of thousands of years, even before that, they had inhabitants on the Earth. So what Albayon spoke about at the very beginning was that original settlements, or the original people that came to the Earth plane. And they weren't even always people. They came in as different species or as different cultures. So one of the things about Lemuria that was so very, very important was the fact that when that was when the humanity as you have it today was created. Some would say you were bioengineered. What we did was there were groups from the universe that all came together, and it's almost like people utilizing or contributing through DNA their strongest features. So what was going on then is that in different parts of the planet, there were different cultures and different groups of people living. And then those people intermarried, those people interbred, those people. So it wasn't just 100% in a laboratory engineering the DNA to say, here's going to be the human DNA now. A lot of it was just very organically done. And then as this was happening organically, then there were other things that were going on that were cultures and people studying things. And, this may be something that a lot of you don't want to hear. And this may be something that people think, nope, I don't think it went on like that. And, there's many different ways in which this can be interpreted. And it happened over several thousand years, 100,000 years, perhaps 100,000 years. But anyway, it happened, our point being, day by day by day, month by month, week by year, over hundreds of thousands of years. Okay. And in doing that, that's what created humanity as you are. And it was then when Atlantis came in and they said, okay, this was the true bioengineering. We're going to take it. We're going to force these cells to have this. We're going to force this DNA to do this. That's when the true manipulation of the DNA took place as a means of trying to bring in AI, you could say. And that was when they tried to work to suppress aspects of your DNA. And so that's when everything kind of dropped down. So then when you think about the Egyptian times and the Sumerian times and all of these various times that you consider your more current history, That was the humankind striving to get back to what you knew intrinsically was utopia, which was that time of Lemuria. And that's where we're heading right now. When we talk about the golden age, or we talk about the age of Aquarius, or we talk about all of these things that have to do with abundance and the activation of your DNA, what you are doing is bringing yourself back to that place where you had all of these abilities, and they're just intrinsic within you. So right now, as you hear about it, you may think, oh, that would be nice. Oh, I'd like to have that. Oh, this would be good. So when you have someone that is truly just in attunement with the earth or with the planet, you can draw from the planet, and you can know, oh, we need some rain. You can pull down the rain. Oh, it's very, we've had too much rain, like that person down in Australia. They can draw from the planet, they can draw from the atmosphere, and they can work to create a greater balance. So and it's just intrinsic within the humans. Those that worked and lived out in the more rural areas, you were there attuned to nature. Those of you that may have been in more like a city type place, you learned how to create balance within one another. When you look at a lot of those that they consider what do they call them? Like in those movies, they consider the space age cities or whatever. There was always a lot of control and manipulation. Like, I'm watching you, don't do anything wrong. You can only do it this way. Well, that was what they were putting forth to have, how do you call it? When as part of the control and manipulation of humanity, that dumbing down, as they called it. So that's not going to happen now. That's now been taken off the table. And so as the culture and as your human growth continues to grow and expand in the ways in which it has, we've spoken at length about opening up your heart center, because the fifth dimension and the higher frequencies are all coming there through your heart center. And that's where that love, compassion, learning how to love yourself. Think about it, when you were trained not to love yourself, not to think highly of yourself, not to be confident in yourself, that was all done as a means of breaking down society. It is 100% normal. It is intrinsic within each one of you to love yourself. It's like you are the image of God. You are the image of your soul. So of course you would love yourself. So when you think about that, and that's just the foundation for who you are as this human, that's going to be one of the biggest changes that you see taking effect this year, is that people will begin. And if you love yourself, then you feel better about yourself. You feel more compassion for others. You feel more compassionate about yourself in the choices that you may have made. You feel compassionate about yourself in the way that maybe other people treated you, or you treated them, and all of that is going to change. So this is going to be one of the biggest transitions in this year, is that living from the heart center. And then the more that just raises the frequency of the consciousness of the earth, well, then that's what's going to activate more people being able to speak their truth, talking about your throat center. That's when people are going to be able to see the energies and understand. So all of those upper chakras, which of course they're open, but when you talk about them being activated, that means that they communicate in balance with one another to a much higher degree, so that you are just intrinsically able to see the things around you, to see the people, and then you can connect and talk to the people in that unconscious or telepathic way, instead of always just trying to, struggle through or put forth what you're trying to say and express and do. Okay, so that's what I see as one of the biggest changes this year, is that knowledge and understanding of what the history of the true history of the planet has been, and then moving back towards that. And this opening up and the understanding and the awareness of your chakras and your energy bodies as a way of supporting you. And as all of that is happening, it's activating those strands in your DNA, which also then when you hear some of these things, you say, oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that's true, because it's all been activated here in your unconsciousness. This is what's working strategically with all of those that you might consider still asleep. and they're not necessarily asleep. It's all just sitting right back there waiting to be activated. And then for some, it may be very overwhelming because it all comes out at once. But for others, it will just be an automatic, oh yeah, I knew that. Oh yeah, I knew that. Okay, so there was one other thing I wanted to share. What was it? Shoot. It had to do with people and relationships. So many of these blogs that you have, many of the things that you watch on your computers and on your phones and stuff, the AI that was generated by the nefarious ones, it was really activating that which was coming in and trying to undermine people's self-esteem. Like if you look at a lot of those games, or if you look at a lot of the things that are telling you now, there's a lot of things that have to do with AI that is not nefarious, it's not controlling, it's not manipulative, and it's just done as an easier way to get things done. So, and that's never going to go away. But what the nefarious ones had tried to put into place, and they were successful to a certain degree, are things that especially targeted towards children, things that want to like create a dialogue with them, and they think they're talking to another kid, and it's not a kid, it's AI, and it's doing subtle grooming, and it might be even doing mind control. So this is something that Elon Musk is actually working with, and he's targeting, and he's got a team that are working on it because they want to disassemble that type of AI. There are many people that are going to be looking at these games that the kids play and adults play. And the point is that sometimes if you found yourself, oh, you just played and played and played, and when you come out, you don't feel like, oh, wow, I just did the best thing ever, I feel so good. Instead, people come out of that and they're down, they're depressed, they may be, just like parts of their emotions were shut down, or I don't know. But this is one of the things that needs to be addressed at this time. And you will hear a lot of people talking about it in the year to come. Like when you guys talk about how you had a conversation and then suddenly you see ads for what that conversation was about. You didn't even search it on your computer. That's what we're talking about. That is the AI that is invasive into people's lives. And that is the AI that they really want to work at dismantling. So it's, pay attention to your children, pay attention to yourself, pay attention to how much time are you on the screen. Because think about it. When you were younger and you didn't have your computers, you didn't have things, you had other activities. And so I'm not saying that having the computer and your phones and all are bad, because they're not. They're essential to moving forward in life. But just consider, if you will, how can I find a balance? How can I have all of that and still be outside, or still be with friends and family, and not with friends and family while you're every other second looking at your phone, but be present with people, because that is something that needs to come back. And if you look at it, if you consider it that way, I mean, maybe these are things that you guys have thought about all along and you've noticed it before, but this was one of the ways that was put into place to really try to take over the energy, or take over how people thought about things, and try to keep people in a similar vibration, which is not to think for yourself, but to become a robot. And it does need to be dismantled, and it will be, but just pay attention until that happens. But there are people, very, very, very smart people, that are aware of it. And like I said, I see Elon Musk at the top of it, and he's got a task force that is working on this. Okay, that's everything that I wanted to say up at the beginning here. So do we want to shift gears and answer some questions? A strange thing happened to my husband, 12/22. As we were laying in our bed, the window faces north. It was a cloudy day, and the sun was on the other side of the house. As we were laying there, we both felt a huge, like magnetic pull at our third eye, and we both felt the warm, tingling sensations. And then after a few seconds, the pull and throbbing was gone. What just happened to my husband and I? This is what I'm talking about. What I see happened at that time, especially because I can feel it in you as I'm connecting to you, and you're not saying it scared the crap out of us, but this was an activation within your DNA. You said the 22nd, that was around the time of the equinox. I'm sorry, the solstice. And so at that time, there were multiple solar flares that were coming into the earth plane. And if you think about solar flares, it's like they're little particles of light. They're little particles, and sometimes they come in as what you might call like a ball if it's containing a lot of information. And so my sense in what you were talking about is that for whatever reason, you were both in a place of expansion. You were both in a place of awareness, and then boom, one of those little balls of energy slipped in. And it was activating your third eye. It was activating your DNA. It was helping you to become a more conscious individual. And it was because you were in the right vibration, you were in the right frequency. So it happened in a very conscious way. This is an example of a lot of the things that are going into people's unconsciousness, and they're not able to say, oh, wow, I could see it and I could feel it. And we both saw it. We could both see the light and we could see the energy. So that's really exciting for you. I'm super glad that it happened for you in that way. And but that's exactly as I see it, that it was activating your third eye, and it was due to the solar flare that was coming in. And that's an example of what everybody's going through, even though you might not have that same visual or that same impact that this couple experienced. Good for you. Is it possible for us to recognize that we are in a higher frequency after we have ascended? So the way that you would recognize it is most often, how does it feel, or how is my life? So when you're in a higher frequency, sometimes it's easier to understand when we talk about the lower. When you're in a lower frequency, things feel heavy and lethargic and like you're struggling upriver, as they call it. And it's very hard to get things done. So therefore, when you're in the higher frequency, then that's when things around you, it's almost like they feel lighter or more transparent, or as if you send an intention across the room just to play, and it just zips across the room. You're not having that walking against the water upstream, or whatever that phrase is, and struggling to get it there. So the energy around you will feel different. It'll feel thinner, lighter, more transparent. And then when you think about things, when you think about manifesting, when you think about where's my focus, where are my emotions, where are my thoughts and beliefs right now, they'll tend to be in something that is uplifting to you, something that helps you to move forward, something that gives you, what's the word I want to use? That gives you incentive to either try something new, or to take a leap of faith, or do something that you might have been thinking about wanting to do but have not done. And so this is another example of being in the higher frequency. So you will notice it because, and a lot of people will just say, I don't know, it just feels different. And you can't really define it, but these are just a few things that you could look at to help you define it. And if you then feel like, well, that's really depressing me, or I cannot get past that, or this just seems to be, well, then you know that you've dropped back down to a lower frequency again. So it's the more that you're in that space, the easier it will be to stay there. And the more that your environment is in that higher, lighter frequency, the easier it'll be to stay there. But as we've all said over and over again, the earth is not at a place where you can stay there 24/7. So it's more so about how often can I get into that higher frequency, and how long can I stay there? But don't make it a competition. Just know that I want to be in a place that I feel better about myself, about my life, about my relationships, about my goals and my choices, and let that be what guides you. Whew, great question. It's exactly what we need on this first day of the year, is it not? Are physical and mental health issues expected to heal spontaneously in the coming months, with or without a request from spirit? Not per se. Yes, when the vibration gets to be more transparent and it's vibrating at a higher frequency, and people's soul or higher self can come into them more easily, there are many of these things that will spontaneously heal themselves because they were in that place because they were trying to, avoid feeling so bad, and it's like a crack takes place inside of them. There will be a transition in mental health once the med beds. I've always believed the med beds are coming, and they will come. And that is something that will be easily healed within the med beds when the med beds are more available to everyone. So when you see autism, when you see mental health issues, when you see, people that just want to be different, it's people that think and act and function in a different way than the average person or than everybody else. And so in their attempt to be in that space, they just crack, or they just change, or that, that's when they get that reputation. And so as the energy shifts and transitions into something that's much more balanced, then at that point, they're going to be less different. Or people are going to be more accepting of people to be different. And so my point I'm trying to make with all of this is that I don't see it something that's going to happen this year in terms of 100%. Everybody's suddenly healed, but I think that you will begin to see a change in people. You will begin to see more balancing in these individuals, and the more balanced they are, because the energy's not as erratic, they're not taking in those negative impulses that have been putting out towards people, then all of that creates a greater sense of ease within them. Some could say some of these people were just so incredibly sensitive, and then when the negative got ratcheted up as high as it did, well, they didn't know what to do. And so that's when they seem to step over that line into what you might call mental illness. So as there's a much greater stabilizing energy throughout the entire planet, not just in that person's neighborhood, that's what will also help them to feel better and to have less acting out, and perhaps that will heal them completely. That's entirely possible. But I cannot say that that all mental health issues will be gone by the end of the year, but there will be a transition in some people due to the transition in the energies. Okay. Was HARP technology used to promote the terrible flood in Valencia, Spain? That was, again, attempted to be a flood by the nefarious ones, but it was taken over by the white hats, and it feels as if there was a lot of caves, and that a lot of the flooding for that I'm hearing loud and clear, purge, 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 that there was a lot that had not yet been cleared out. And a lot of that was for clearing out caves and clearing out old energy and clearing out things that had contaminated the earth. And we're talking some things that go back to ancient times. So that was done as a means of purging and clearing. And yes, it may have started out as a way of manipulating, but then it got taken over by the white hats, and it was you can't really control it to a certain degree, but yes, it can be controlled as much as it could be controlled to lessen it from what it was, but still have that purging effect that needed to take place. That's the way we see it happening. That there is little tiny bit of the nefarious. The majority then was the white hats taking over, but underneath it all, the reason for the flooding was purge, 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 purge. It feels like Valencia, that's over towards the coast. It feels as if that was where a lot of the Inquisition took place. We feel like that was in different parts of Spain, but it feels like going back to when the Inquisition, and when that's what we're talking about, that entrained energy from several hundred years ago was in that area. And we see that there were tortures and different things that took place, and it all had to be purged. And so that flooding was to purge. It's terrible. We understand it's terrible, and people losing their homes and losing their stuff and losing lives. And, it's never good. There's no doubt about that. But this was a purging that absolutely had to be done. And it was due to things that happened in that area several hundred years ago, and even up to now. So perhaps they had dumbs underneath it, or perhaps they had something else that had to do with trafficking of people. And that feels like that was part of what was cleaned out. Okie doke. Anything else? Wow. Look at this. Okay. Okay, and that was just that last question from there. Okie dokie. So, I don't think I have anything else that I need to share then. Again, as we talked about a couple of times ago, we could just say so much more information, so much more quickly. This is for that person that asked the question about how do I know I'm in the higher frequency? Well, this is another way, is that you're able to get this information out. We are able to get this information out. We're able to, everybody always receives downloads. Like there's different people on the internet that have their podcasts and their different things, and you're getting downloads as you listen to those people talk to you. Not everybody's a high frequency, but there are many times when you're listening to these different people and they're getting downloads, you're getting the downloads, and everything is in sync with one another. So be excited about this new year. Be very present within yourself. Be open to express yourself as almost as this new individual that is you. So all is well, all is love, and I am ever with you. Ansaluia. Greetings. It is I, Crystallia. So where I come from, we didn't really have celebrations associated with the new year, such as what you have. As I'm tapping into the energies of the earth, it's been very interesting to me. We did celebrate always the new year. We did celebrate as if, okay, we've completed something, we're going into something else. But when I look at the earth, and as I looked at it, was so funny because the way you have your time zones, you could see celebration, almost like you're going around and you see the celebration that's just going across your planet. So that was kind of fun to see. I don't know that I've paid attention to it like that before. So let me speak for a second about what I tapped into with these celebrations. Everyone, or the vast majority of people on the planet, are anticipating change. They're anticipating that something better is happening. They're anticipating that so much of this heavy, dense energy is done. It's over. It's resolved. And so overriding everything was an anticipation of change, and that the change is here. Now, you may say, oh, well, every year, if you tap in every year at midnight. So I decided, well, let me look at that a year ago. And, just looking back the other years, there's always like a sense of excitement, especially at midnight, because that's why everyone's partying and that's what everyone's there for. But it's never been as deeply entrained in all of society, this sense of anticipation and this sense of excitement over the upcoming year. So that's another way of saying, if you wonder, is this really happening? And you wonder if the normies know anything, and you wonder if those people that have not yet understood what's going on, do they know anything? They may not know the specifics of what's been going on your planet that all of you like to study and share and expose. But they do know that something's different, and they do know that there is a reason to feel joy and anticipation. So that's an exciting thing to see. I really, truly enjoyed it this year. Okay. So when I look at the upcoming year, just because this is here on the 1st, it's a great day to put forth intentions. So let me tell you what I see coming down the pike. I see a roller coaster. I see that there are going to be things that are really spikes, like really, oh, wow, it's happening. It's happening. People know about this. we've gotten raises at our job. I just see abundance flowing upward, meaning a lot of abundance that's coming in to people. And this is financial abundance. And so I see everyone just getting excited about that. And then I see like disclosure or something comes out, and I see just this tanking down of people just going, oh my God, are you kidding me? And that leads to a lot of people having to do their own growth on themselves. And having to, as they deal with something that becomes a global issue, they're also having to deal with it within them, because frequently there might be something about that. So I see that like February, Marchish. And then there's another pike. There's another hill, if you want to call it, in this roller coaster ride, in which everyone receives something else. And what they receive is something that really boosts their energy. It really helps them to feel happier. It really helps them to transition. It again feels financial, but not as much financial as security. So what's coming with this second hill that I see feels like greater security for humanity. And again, this is different places around the world, some much more pronounced and others much more subtle. And so with this second hill that I see, people just are coming out of it, because if you think about it, if there's all this knowledge that came out about the human trafficking and stuff happening, and people have to deal with it, well, then you can grow and you can expand. So then that hill's a little bit higher. And then I see another valley that comes, because perhaps more disclosure, because all of these millions of people that have not done the work on themselves, now they're pushed to do even more work on themselves. But here's the cool thing that I see about this. So like, okay, here's this one, and then you go down. This goes even higher, but you don't go as far down. You come maybe halfway down, and then you go even higher, and then not as far. So the point of this is, the more that people are getting into a synchronicity about disclosure, about doing self-worth, work, when someone is doing work on themselves, they're ultimately opening up to love and acceptance and understanding who they are. And if you understand who you are, if you are loving and accepting yourself from that core level of who you are, then you can never go down to that lowest level of nefarious deeds or negative deeds and stuff like that. So therefore, the frequency in the collective consciousness never goes that low again. And this is what I see happening for the first 6 months. It's like up and down and up and down and up and down. So with that being said, and maybe as a way of preparing for it, then each of you can start saying, okay, well, I'm going to find as much balance as I can have in my life. And the more balance I have, the more balance the ULBs are sending out and all the other angels and light beings, then the more that as people are going through this transition and what they have to go through, then it makes it less time in that deep valley and more time spent in the higher, lighter frequency. By summertime, I feel as if people are looking at this year saying, has it been 4 years already? Or has it been 2 years already? People will feel as if so much change has taken place in the first 6 months of this year that it almost is as if it was a longer period of time. There are moments when time gets stretched and moments when time gets constricted. You can each do this yourself. Like if you're driving to work, okay, let me be at work and not having the long commute. If I'm having a wonderful time with people, well, let's stretch that out and enjoy that time. And so then as I look towards the end of the year, I see a lot of things coming out about the universe, about universal beings, about other planets, about galaxies, about frequency, and all of these different things that come with this is about giving knowledge to each of you. And as you receive this knowledge, you can then integrate it into your life, and you begin to talk about things differently, and you see people differently, and you interact differently. And so my point of all of this is I see from now till the end of the year, massive changes taking place. And then at the end of it all, there's a huge amount of people that are very well aware of that the universe is filled with benevolent beings and other people like themselves, and that there have been support and communication going on throughout the entire time that people have lived on Earth. And people are going to begin to say, well, who am I? Where did I come from? Who is my aspect that's living out there in the universe? And as they move into this, then it will also allow for, what's the word I want to use? Just a greater flow in energy, greater expansion in each person of who they are. Oh, and don't know why this just popped into my mind, but it feels that by towards the end of the year, September, October, something like that, it's like there's less weight on the planet. Is that less weight because the density is not as heavy, or is it physically less weight? I feel like you will see by that time changes in the diet. You will see, especially this country of the United States, where so many chemicals and so many things in their food, that the people of the United States, Australia had had a lot of that too. We're thrilled that other parts of the world said, no, we're not doing that. We're not going as far. And so they never did. But for those countries that really got entrained in that because of the nefarious ones pushing their agenda, it feels like you rebound very quickly with that. And so I feel greater health. I feel less weight. I feel less weight physically and less weight energetically as you get towards the end of the year. So this is a year to be excited about. This is a year for each of you to start dreaming big dreams. Start dreaming, well, if I could do anything at all, what would it be? And then start seeing how you can manifest that into your life. Because the easier that people are in the light, higher vibrations, then the easier you can manifest change, the easier you can manifest that work that you want to do. This does not mean everyone's suddenly an entrepreneur. This may be, okay, I'm working at this job, but I cannot stand the people I'm working with. Well, then here I can do what truly makes my heart sing. And I'm suddenly doing it with a lot of people that I get along with, and we're all in sync with one another. So that's what I mean about making some of these changes. For those of you that are in, what do you call it? Like in relationships, and sometimes your relationships are struggling. Sometimes when that struggle is like ego to ego, and I got to be right. And it just makes it hard for everyone around. It feels like a lot of that is smoothing out because people will see each other as their higher self and not see each other as much from the everyday relations. So a lot of relationships are going to smooth out. Some you may decide, okay, this doesn't serve me anymore. I need to move on. But people will move on to new relationships through a space of we're both choosing to move on. And so that's a different thing too. But anyway, this is just kind of my perception of where I see the planet. This is how I see humanity moving. And in all of this is greater and greater activation of DNA in each of your physical bodies. And that DNA is connected to your emotions, your thoughts, your beliefs, your universal connection. And so all of this, as it integrates within you, does create great change in each one of you. And it creates change in how you interact with one another. So I think it's going to be a fabulous year. Are there any questions for me, Alexander? Interesting. Well, throw a question in there. I'll see if I can talk for another minute or so, if anyone wants to ask a question. So I come from the omniverse, as you know, and the omniverse reflects different places in which the consciousness is different. And some of these omniverse, some of these other universes are big, huge, expanded space because the energy that each one taps into. And you may have a whole universe that's kind of small just because the energy is not as expanded, but it's still intact and contained. So the reason that I'm bringing this up now is that what I see as I'm looking at the earth is almost like there are groups of consciousness within you that are still, you just see that which is immediately around you, and you don't necessarily see the huge universal picture. But a lot of that is going to change because as the frequency changes, then the information flows, and then each one of you will begin to just see things, just see things from a new perspective. And as it goes to one, to the other, to the other, to the other, then suddenly before you know it, billions of people are seeing things different, and it shifts the consciousness. And just as you can see a whole entire universe that may have a small consciousness, it shifts it into a bigger, you'll see that playing out on your planet. Okay, now I see some people wrote in. I would like having a lovely Crystallia. I would like having conversations with the ULBs. How can I improve my communication skills with you or any of you? So the universal light beings we create our own consciousness that is represented by the ULBs, which is the name that Shelly gave us. And as we come in and have these conversations with you, as we do a mini, as we're working with your planet and with individuals, there is that ULB consciousness. So what each of you can do, if you want to expand your own communication, then when you go into meditation and when you go into that place and you expand your energies, just say, I invite the ULBs to come talk with me. And usually you'll connect up at the space of your higher self rather than down here in your human. And then you can connect to us. You may feel us. You may feel it as a love, a light, a presence that comes in and around you. It may be triggered by something else you see in your environment. It may be just that you're driving along, you're in your car or something, and in the back of your mind, you're like, hey, I wonder what the ULBs are up to. And then you may get a download from us. So it may begin as very vague and something that you just sense, to a place where you can literally have conversations like Shelly does. Be aware that you are going to be coming from your vibration and your frequency. So you may get somewhat different messages because it's all filtered through you, the person that you are. But this is all going to become easier for every person. So anyone that wants to do this will have the ability to do it. Some will be more successful than others, but if you're not successful at first, just keep at it. And all of that is working with not only integrating things deeper into you, but helping you to expand your own consciousness. We'll see ya. 2 to 3 weeks ago, I saw orbs in the sky and then experienced odd things inside the house, objects moving, spirit, or something else. Melbourne, Australia. Okay. So the orbs that you saw, it feels like they were representing, how do we say this? Let me tap into it more and get a more concise way of explaining this. I think what happens sometimes is they have these ships that are unmanned ships. They're AI run, and sometimes they call them the plasma ships. Sometimes but there are plasma ships that do have people on them. And so what I'm seeing is that something came down in your area, and it feels like it was an unmanned, an AI plasma ship. And then it sent out all these orbs, like all these balls of consciousness. And what they were doing was getting a feel for what was going on in this area and trying to clean out things. So that's the sense I heard, getting a feel for what's going on and cleaning out those two things. So what you saw, and then the way you saw it manifested in the house, was it was their acknowledgement that you saw them, because a lot of people didn't see them. Most often people do not see them. When you do see orbs, sometimes it's because they want you to see them. But other times it's just because you happen to be of a vibrational frequency that you can see them. And so that felt like them saying, yep, you saw us. Yep, we're here. And thank you for seeing us, because it felt like you said, oh, I'd like to know more. I'd like to have a greater understanding. I'd like to be able to, communicate with you or see how I can work with this. And that's what it feels like that was about as we're tapping into it. That's exciting, is it not? When will these ascension symptoms ease up? They should be easing up right now. With the last integration that came with the solstice, there was a huge wave. And it's been about a week, maybe coming up on 2 weeks. So that should be helping things to integrate by now. And those symptoms should be easing. Everybody, some people, and then you may not feel anything for days, weeks, months on end, and then whoop, something may come in and slam you. So be aware that if you're feeling a lot of the symptoms, then just get into a space of, okay, whatever needs to be cleared, let's clear it. And if there's something you have to consciously understand, then let it come to your consciousness and then let it clear out. And if that doesn't work, then just go with the flow. Okay, I'm not getting a lot of sleep this week, makes it really hard to go to work, but just do what you can. And instead of fighting against it, because fighting against it is something that will make them accelerate. So anything that you can do to integrate them, release them, or go with the flow is what will help them to transition more easily. But we don't see a lot of, okay, the equinoxes and the solstices, there will be the big influxes as we've talked about before. But this one that was the December solstice was particularly large with the clear intention because it was the end of the year, the end of a cycle of clearing out a lot of stuff. And so as that eases off, each of you should feel a lot better. Okay, that feels good. Now it feels done to me. So beloved family and friends, I'm just so very excited to spend this time with you. You are all manifesting love on earth. You are all manifesting that balance that you're seeking to have and that we are seeking to help you receive. So be open to receive. Know that we're ever with you. Know that we are all very excited about this upcoming year, and we hope that you will be too. Ansaluia. All right. This is Shelly. I'm back again. Woo, that was super good. Super good. Of course, I only remember bits and pieces. I don't remember a lot of the channels, and then it might come back to me later. But I could see people's messages in here. I always go back and look at them later. So thank you all for being here. Happy New Year. If you like this type of channeling and stuff, please feel free to subscribe, hit that like button, all those different things. I think that these types of messages are going to really get out to a lot more people this year too. So that's all going to be really fun. But thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful 2025, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.